Hi, everyone. A number of you have asked for extra help involving the Project 5, particularly the GuessBot class and everything going on inside here. And I will acknowledge that there is a lot going on here and it's complex. And so one baseline suggestion is that you take this straight up literally in here as you implement this. For example, how many fields are you creating in the GuessBot? 3. One of them is an array of strings called questions. It'll hold 8 questions. So you're declaring a string array with 8 elements in it, and you're filling in those 8 questions. You'll also create an array of type animal called answers. Remember, we can create arrays of any type of object, and so this one is animal. It will have all of the animal objects, which is 10. So that's an array of size 10. Etc. And as you go down through the fields and the constructors and the methods, make sure that you're giving the appropriate names. You're just going right down the list here. What does it receive? What does it send back? But I don't think that's the major thing that many of you are struggling with. Instead, I think it has more to do with how this GuessBot operates. So I want to jump over to Excel right here, and I want to show you how this works. And in a couple tables here, I've shown how the memory or how the data inside the GuessBot is supposed to operate. And for clarity, I've only shown 3 questions, and I've only shown 3 possible animal answers right here. And in your case, you'll have 8 questions, and you'll have 10 animals down here. So this is the questions array up here. This holds the 8 questions as strings. So this would be element 0, this would be element 1, this would be element 2. This is the animals array down here. So this would be element 1 in the animals array. This would be element 2, this would be element 3, and so on. And you'll notice that what an animal has is a name, an indicator of whether it's a possible answer or not. And in the beginning, all of these animals are possible answers because we haven't gotten any questions resolved yet. And then it will have true and false responses indicating the answer to the questions above. So if question 0 is, does it have 4 legs? Well, the answer for a dog will be true, for a chicken will be false, and for a horse will be true. And then you're also going to keep track of what current question you're about to ask. And I'm showing that with this red arrow up here. So when the GuessBot starts and you request the current question, the GuessBot will return, does it have 4 legs? And you'll ask the user that. So let's suppose that happens. You invoke the current question, get current question method, and it responds, does it have 4 legs? And to that, the user answers true. Well, here's what the GuessBot should do to update its answers. It should go to question 0, because that's the current question, and it should see which answers match. Now, in this case, dog is true, and so that remains a possible answer. However, when we look at chicken, the answer here does not match the answer that the user has set. So that means that the chicken is no longer a possible answer, and you will set the possible value to false. We go down to a horse, and since that matches the user's answer, it's still a possible value. And then what you're going to do, and by the way, this value here does not get saved. Then what you're going to do is you're going to move to the next question. Ask the user this question: does it have hair? Well, in this case, maybe the answer to that is also true. And so the GuessBot then will go to the matching question in the animals array. And again, it will look at which ones do not match and set them to false. Now, in this particular example, that gives us no new information. We still have 2 possible answers over here. And so then we would move on to the third question. Is it smaller than a person? And perhaps the answer to that is false. So in this case, the GuessBot will go down. When you invoke the update answers method, it will go down and it will see that the answer to a dog does not match. So it's going to change the possible value to false. Chicken does not match. It's already false. Horse does match, and that answer will stay true. So if these were our only animals in there, we are now down to one answer. If we count the number of possible answers right here, the number of possible answers is 1. And our program should detect that that's a 1 and say, oh, I've got an answer. I am going to answer horse. That's how the GuessBot works here. By process of elimination, going through each of the questions, you're going to keep eliminating your possible animals until you are down to either 1 or 0. By the way, you're welcome to put in any animals you want. You're welcome to put in more than 10, but you should realize that the pattern of trues and falses for each animal should be different. If there are 2 animals that have the exact same pattern of true and false for your questions that you have, the GuessBot won't be able to narrow down to one particular answer. Now, while we're here, creating this array has a little bit of confusion to it too. And so let me briefly mention a few things inside your actual VS Code program. First of all, this is how you create an array of type animal right here. We're calling it answers. It's private, like most fields are. And the type of this is not int or string, it's animal. Now, we are not setting its size. We are not doing this right here, even though we do know we want 10 of these in there. Instead, we're going to do that in the constructor. Now, what happens in the constructor is we invoke the getAnimals method. And I will straight up give you a few lines of the getAnimals method here. Now, maybe more appropriately, this should be called makeAnimals, because what it's doing is it's creating each of the entries in the getAnimals array. So here's the start of that method. And you can see again that I'm creating, and this seems kind of weird, I'm creating another animals array of size 10 right here. So I'm building this temporary array, and then I'm going to return that. I'm going to return that to the constructor. You can see I'm sending back an array of animals that is going to be used to fill in the answer. Now, here's how you create an element in that array. For element 0, this is going to be a new animal. So I'm creating a new object right here. And I'm supplying the things that the animal constructor expects to see. The name of an animal. And then I am sending it a new Boolean. And it has the answers in order to the questions that I'm going to ask about the animals right there. You might be wondering, what about that possible answer? Well, the animal constructor is going to default that to true. And so I'm not going to supply that. My animal constructor will automatically set any animal that's created to have a possible value of true. So you're going to create 9 more, and then you're going to finish that up by returning the animals array. And then in your constructor, that will get plugged into your answers array. And so that's where the animals come from for this. While we're at it, I'll give you one more tip. That questions array, that is a constant array filled with strings representing each question, you can create it the long way around with multiple lines showing each element. Whether this is laziness or whether this is efficiency, I decided to do it this way and to use the literal string shortcut to create the array with each of the questions listed out as a string separated by commas. So you are free to do that as well if you think that that's clearer and more efficient. Okay, hope this helps. We can discuss this more in lecture on Monday as you finish up project number 5.